Welcome to Profoundly Silly Wisdom, the channel for people who are ready to start living as their authentic soul self rather than following all the shoulds. And today's message is actually how to be happy. I don't think any one of us doesn't want to be happy, so hopefully this applies to you. But it's more specific about how do we raise our happiness level. You know, I talk a lot on this channel about moving from life as an endurance test, you know, this anxious experience of trying not to fail, you know, that life is this obstacle course that we have to move through and we're being measured all the time and at any moment we can screw it up. And moving from that kind of life experience to life as a joyful adventure. So it's much more creative, it's much more exciting. And so how do we make that transition? You know, how do we raise our happiness level so that we can change our experience of life? Well, first and foremost, I think it's helpful to define what it means, what I'm defining happiness as. You know, what does it mean to be happy? Does it mean that we're never sad? We never experience any negative emotions? You know, just like in the fairy tales, they lived happily ever after. There's this sense that you achieve this goal that you've been aiming for so long, and once you've got it, that's it, you're happy and you never experience any dark moments or any disillusionment ever again. Well, I think you probably worked out that's not what we're talking about here. You know, because if you think about it, life is always changing. You know, that's the one thing that is constant. Everything is energy, and energy is always just transforming from one state into another. It can't even be destroyed. So there's this sense of life as flow. And actually what happens is a lot of our unhappiness comes from resisting the flow of life. So I'm kind of defining happiness, you know, raising your happiness level and being happy as being able to flow with life rather than fighting against it, you know, sort of banging your head against the brick wall, you know, keep hoping one day I'm just going to make a dent in this thing rather than knock myself out. And we all know that that's, you know, it's not all, it never really works out that way. So yeah, so happiness as flowing with life versus fighting against it. And the other way I'm sort of defining happiness is really sort of brought out by the psychological studies, and that's happiness as a sense of purpose. It's not about a perfect life. You know, as we speak, you've got drilling going on outside the window. And it's driving me a bit nuts. I feel a bit distracted, if I'm honest. So it's not a perfect scenario, you know, but I need to get this video done in time to get it out. And so I can try and wait for the perfect happiness producing conditions to do that. Or, you know, I have a sense of purpose about what I'm doing. You know, I'm recording these videos because they have meaning for me. You know, it's meaningful for me to share this information. And so, you know, even though that is slightly annoying, I don't know if you can hear it as much as I can, perhaps not. Maybe you can now that I've pointed it out to you. But yeah, there's a sense that it's not about happiness isn't about having a perfect life when nothing ever goes wrong. It's just having a purpose really does give us a sense of meaning, and it just raises our happiness level so that our experience of life is so much better. Again, moving from that life as an endurance test to life as an adventure, we can move past those road bumps with much greater ease when we have a sense of purpose. And there is a third thing, there is a sort of third way in which I'm defining happiness, or let's say an important factor in raising your happiness level. And I'll mention that towards the end because it makes more sense to mention it then. So how do we actually raise our happiness level? Well, you know, coming back to this flowing with life versus fighting it definition of happiness, flowing with the drilling rather than fighting it and saying stop. You're probably familiar with the Serenity Prayer, or a good number of you will be. I'm going to read it now. So the Serenity Prayer is, God, grant me the serenity to accept what I cannot change, i.e. the drilling that's going on outside my window now. The courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And the key is in that word wisdom. You know, if we're talking about learning to flow with life, then how we raise our happiness is developing that wisdom and knowing what we do have the power to change and what we don't have the power to change again, so that we can use our energy effectively rather than wasting it on things that are never going to make a difference and are only going to increase our sense of unhappiness. And what does it mean by wisdom? I'd redefine it as, that self-awareness, essentially. Because a lot of us, if we don't have self-awareness, it's obviously, I can't remember if it's Aristotle or some other famous Greek philosopher said, know thyself. You'll have to put it in the comments below because sometimes my memory fails me. But yeah, know thyself. That's the key to a happy life. Because if you don't know yourself, you're basically just going to react to everything that happens to you. And you'll have that kind of victim mentality. And we all know people like that. And also we all have moments, and some of us have spent quite a few moments in our life in that mode of just of feeling out of control, again, not knowing what we can change and just reacting to all of the things that we can't, and often wasting energy trying to change the things that we can't change. So yeah, that self-awareness is what is going to give you that wisdom to know the difference, to know what to focus on. So actually I'm going to start drawing today, I've decided. So I'm going to draw you a little picture. Now, I am not an accomplished artist, so you'll have to forgive me. But see if you can work out what I'm drawing. So let me reposition myself. Hopefully this is in shot. So I'm going to draw, not very steadily, this little figure here. Now, what I'm drawing here is what I'm defining as our 3 wisdom centers. Because if we want that self-awareness, what does it mean? It really means learning how we're made up. Unfortunately, we don't come into life with an instruction manual. It would be so much easier if we did, right? We could read the instruction manual, know how everything works, and stop driving ourselves and everyone else nuts by doing all the crazy shit that we do. But that's not how it happens. So we have to learn as we go, through our experience, which is obviously part of the fun, if you like. So we have, and I'm obviously simplifying this to make it easy to remember. So we have what we call head wisdom. And then what does this look like? I'm sure you can work out I've drawn a heart there. It's not brilliantly drawn, but it's a heart nonetheless. So heart wisdom. And then the third wisdom center, if you like, this spirally thing. It kind of looks a bit like intestines, I think, but also like a vortex. And as an energy person, I quite like that. So I'm going to call that gut wisdom. Again, sorry about my writing. I'm getting used to this new system. So what is head wisdom? Well, so, what do we use our heads for? Well, obviously thinking. Now, I didn't have myself much space here. So I'm going to put it here. Thinking, or thoughts and beliefs. And then, also, I'm trying not to smudge my work here. Focus. What do we focus our attention on? I'm smudging my work. Never mind. What we focus our attention on? So that the wisdom of the head, if you like, of the intellect, I'm calling it the head, is really the ability to focus. But what happens? Well, it gets out of balance. Why? Because this happens, and this isn't just some funky hairstyle. Well, it can be, if you like. It gets a bit crazy. And what is all of that stuff? Those are all of the tangled thoughts from the things that we're focusing on. Because when we don't have self-awareness, what do? We just react to everything. So something happens in our experience. Say we don't like it, and then we react to it. And then it creates a spiky, unpleasant thought, which creates a spiky, unpleasant feeling. And so, if our head gets out of balance, if we're not aware of what's going on in our thinking, And the problem with it is that a lot of our thinking is subconscious. So again, it's not always immediately obvious, oh, my thinking is creating this depressive mood or this anxious feeling. But that's where our feelings come from. We have these thoughts, and then dependent on the nature of that thought, it creates the feeling. If we see something nice, it sort of creates a nice warm fuzzy feeling, and we go, oh, the little puppy, isn't it cute? Or if we have an annoying experience, my boss is rude to me, or at least I think he's rude to me, and that's a spiky thought there. I think, what a bastard, he's such an annoying bastard. And then if I keep that story going, I'll keep noticing all of the things that he does that I don't like. And before long, I've got this story going of what a bastard my boss is. And again, I'm choosing to focus on that. It doesn't feel like a choice, but it is a choice when you realize that you have a decision. You can choose what to focus your thinking on. So that's the head wisdom. It's the power to focus, which often, we're using against ourselves and therefore generating unhappiness. But what is the heart wisdom? So the heart wisdom, so I try and rewrite what I've smudged. I've definitely messed up the gut as well, so we have to come back to that one. The heart wisdom is about your values. What do I mean by values? Do I mean morals and things like that? Well, it can be moral values, but it's not so much a list of do's and don'ts like the 10 Commandments or whatever. It's actually just about the things that matter to you. I mean, obviously, Profoundly Silly Wisdom channel, I'm talking all the time about not following the shoulds, about tuning into your own values, because we get taught values by our society, by our family, and some of those values are very helpful and do accord with our own values. But a lot of the time we get taught things that actually aren't our true value system. I mean, this is the experience I had growing up in a particular religion. And, some of the things that I was taught were great, but in the end, I had to leave the religion because I realized that it wasn't true. I wasn't being true to myself because I was being told to believe certain things that didn't feel resonant for me. They weren't my true values. And so, and values can be as simple as things like, I care about the environment. Nature is really important to me. Maybe you are a gardener, you love cultivating things. Other people might not care about that at all. But because it's important to you, that is important information. If you want to raise your happiness level, then you need to know the things that matter. It might be that family is really important to you. And so you spend a lot of your time, or, if you're self-aware, then you might choose to focus a lot of your attention in life on nurturing your family. So that's why we need to know our heart wisdom, because it gives us the bigger picture, if you like, and also it gives us a sense of purpose. When we do the things that actually matter to us, rather than focusing, again, using our head to focus on things that don't matter to us. And so that's, again, an important part of raising your happiness level, is being able to know what matters to you and to focus on it. Use your head to focus on it instead of ignoring it. So a gut wisdom, again, let's rewrite what we've smudged. Gut wisdom, that's a lot to do with our needs and preferences. So in one of my videos, actually, there's a video in which I share an exercise that helps you to drop down into your heart, to sense your deeper values, and not just your values, your nature. Because your soul, really your heart center, it's not your physical heart. Your heart center is the seat of your soul. So if you want to live a more soulful life, it's about learning to tune into that. So there's an exercise for that, but there's also an exercise called the yes, no, maybe exercise in that video. And what that's about is really learning to tune into your preferences. And they're more your immediate preferences. And they're more related to things that feel good to you or don't feel good to you. Now, why is that important? Because, part of being happy is actually nurturing ourselves, is taking care of ourselves. And if we just ignore all of our gut wisdom, then, we're just going to do things that are actually undermining our happiness because they're going against our sense of well-being. And in that video, I talk about the creepy vibes guy as an example of this gut wisdom. We've all met someone, it doesn't have to be a guy, we've all met someone, and we've just sensed something about their energy, it just feels off. And again, sometimes we ignore this and, our head gets busy saying, yeah, but there's nothing wrong with him, this, that and the other. And we justify it. We sort of second guess ourselves, if you like. The head gets involved. And what is all of this stuff? This is all of the conditioning that we're taught that makes us ignore and override our actual wisdom, our heart wisdom and our gut wisdom. And so we ignore this, and then we end up hooking up with this guy or getting involved in some way. Maybe it's hiring someone when you just had a feeling, oh, there's just something that's not quite right. But on paper they look great. Or maybe it's investing in something. Oh yeah, this looks like a sure thing. And so you go ahead and invest against that kind of scratchy feeling. And it's a feeling in your body, which is why we're calling it gut instinct, because you feel it in your body. You go ahead and then it all goes horribly wrong. And you're just like, why did I listen to my head? Why did I second guess myself? I knew that something was off, but I just didn't listen. And again, this isn't about beating ourselves up. This is all part of learning how our wisdom centers work. So if you want to raise your happiness level, it's really about learning to work with your energy, your wisdom centers, rather than having them work against you. And a lot of it comes down to, the programming we have in our head that causes us to either not be aware of what's happening in it, what our big picture values are, if you like, what our big picture happy life is like, and also just ignoring what feels good for us. So if you want, I don't have time to go into those exercises today, but if you want to start developing that sense of, what matters to me in life, so you want to develop that self-awareness, and you want to develop that sense of, what feels right for me, because your body has an intelligence. It knows whether something is nutritionally right for you. I mean, there are a lot of people I use energy testing for food, because your body has just an innate sense of what is right for it and what is wrong. And it bypasses your brain. And because we've had so much emphasis, especially in the Western education system, on the intellect, we've been taught to, we haven't even been taught about these other wisdom centers. And so we don't benefit from them, and we override them. Instead we decide in our head what the right nutritional program is, as if there's one program that is right for everybody. Of course not. We're all different. And so it's learning to tune into your own wisdom that is going to help you raise that happiness level, because you're living in alignment with your true nature. And again, I've lost my lid. So what does that do? Well, that gives us the ability then, this self-awareness gives us the ability to walk away from the things that are not helpful to us, if it's creepy vibes guy or something else that we're focusing our energy on, and actually that's not a good use of my time. And also to walk towards the things that do matter to us, because life isn't just about avoiding things. If we're in that kind of victim mode where we're reacting to everything because we don't really know ourselves, we don't have the opportunity to actively pursue the things that really matter to us. And again, this is what makes the difference. We walk away from the things that don't serve us, that don't support us, that aren't good for us, and in good obviously being a personal relative term. And then we walk towards the things that are. And this is what changes our life experience from this reactive, I'm just trying to cope with what life is throwing at me experience, to this creative experience, because we're then able to make the space to actively pursue and create the kind of life that we want, because we now have that self-awareness, and we now know how to work with our wisdom centers. And how do we work? Just briefly, obviously what we need to do if we're finding that we're getting all anxious and we've got a terrible static hairdo like this one, it's about learning to drop down where? Into your heart. Because it's amazing, I do this 3 breath exercise that I talk about in the video, and I'll post the link in this video and also in the notes, so that you can find it. It's about dropping down into your heart so that you can experience your true nature. You can have all of this stressy, anxiety thinking, but when you drop down into your heart, suddenly you experience peace. Nothing has changed except that you've moved your focus again. You've used your head in the way it's meant to be used. You've chosen, this isn't helping me, all this stress. I'm not going to come up with a good solution while I'm in this kind of mood. So you've taken the decision to focus instead on your heart space. And literally, if you place your awareness in your heart center, you experience that peace. And you sometimes can get an immediate answer, but also it's just creating a space for creativity to flow through and a new perspective, a new insight to come in. It doesn't have to happen immediately. So if you make a practice of doing this is the value of having a spiritual practice. Again, spiritual is, call it what you like. It doesn't have to be spiritual. A personal growth practice. But you can also do this on the fly. And again, with the gut, the more you develop that awareness of what your yes feels like, what your no feels like, the more you are able to tune into the wisdom in your body and move towards things that are supportive of you and that raise your happiness levels. So I hope you found that helpful. I did mention a third thing, didn't I? A third factor in happiness. And really, because I've talked about happiness being an inside job here, that self-awareness, knowing how to work with yourself rather than against yourself. But also a big factor for humans being social animals is community, is tribe, is relationship. Doing this kind of stuff on your own is only going to get you so far. I know this as someone who's spent a lot of time and a lot of my life actually quite isolated and doing a lot of internal work. And there's only so far you can go with that. So by all means, take this stuff and use it, apply it to your life. Go and watch that other video and those specific exercises to help you develop that self-awareness. But if you really want to move from life being an endurance test to life being more of a joyful, creative experience, then the answer is also in communities, in finding like-minded, like-hearted people that you can share your life with, and people who are on this same path as you of developing their self-awareness, of growing, of evolving instead of just staying, reacting to everything that happens. So if that's the case, then sign up to the mailing list. I will leave a link in the description box. And again, I'm starting to create this community. We're just starting to gather to support each other in this kind of work. But it's also not just about work. It's, like I say, it's about relationships. It's about fun. It's about being able to laugh about, our terrible thought hairdos that we, get ourselves stuck in all of these stories that we tell ourselves. We can share our experiences. We can not take it all so seriously. Because it just gets draining trying to deal with this stuff on your own. So if that sounds appealing, then sign up for the newsletter. And then obviously you will be the first to know when I launch this community. And also if you found this video helpful, please like it. Please share it with anyone who could use this information. And subscribe if you want to hear more profoundly wise thoughts. And I will see you on the other side.